Good morning, SMF Street. What we have right here, and this is to the MMTs, it's the SMF MMT pre-market update for their video library and their live trades. The thing about it is we've already had a nice meeting for about an hour with everyone about the gaps, and we covered volatility, we covered price action, we covered the SMF trading platform, calibrating prices, when weaknesses start coming into price action, how long on that intraday count, whether it's in a 60-minute bar or a 15-minute bar, is where that price is made, how it's made, why it goes up, and when to be selling it, calibrating the top of the move and the reversal side of their platform is the bottom end of the move. Today we have a right elbow gap up, and that's what we have. And what we have been taking very clear note of is that today is a Friday, and that today being day 3 of 5 of the week is that we had 2 major left elbow gap downs where we showed on those live trades. They're right there on that website, stockmarketpundy.com. Those are real entries. And we had 2 left elbow gap downs, and we burned right off of there and made those trades. And the tape itself, the price action, was burning good. And as we got throughout the day yesterday, which would have been 923 tape, today is 924 pre-market futures, is that we weakened late in the day up toward the high end of those price action resistance levels. They slid half of the SMF bar and immediately went right into the short side. And so basically today is that right elbow, the SMF right elbow gap, and MMTs know how to trade those, and they'll be using their platform. So we talked about what those ratio calibrations would be in your platform, in your MMT platform. Basically what I want people to understand is that when that price slides half below the bar, you can go down 369, pop right back up in a flash trade 369 to resistance. You must see a distribution bar right then, and you must see the price contract below half of the bar right then, as far as getting the entry on the SMF slide that bid bar, half of that bar. So basically what they did 2 days in a row on the 23rd and the 22nd is that stocks made that left elbow gap down on the open, and we burned that tape. And we burned those trades right up off of there in our SMF platform. Now we're going to look at where the top end of that opening move gets exhausted in price. And so just like a left elbow gap down where prices met in the SMF platform system, is that bam, we get that buy up above half of that SMF bar in your platform there. You got all the mathematical calculations related to price action. They're correlated. The thing that you want to know on the top of a right elbow is, does the seller meet with the sell right on the open? Because if they do, then you'll see that half bar, opening 3-minute bar, you'll see half of that 3-minute bar, you'd go below it. 369 down, 369 back up, and or to a lower high, to a lower ratio, and you'd be met right there with another distribution bar, and they start sliding it. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is that you can have a sell gap, a pullback, then bam, you go up half of the bar and you get in then, and you burn the tape back up and see if they take off and break those highs again. So basically in your platform, if you 369 on a pullback and you're met with a half a green bar, up bar right then and there, hey, you know what you have to do is you have to execute, then you take that up 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 and sell into the tops there, and vice versa on the way back down when they break half of that bar. All right, we've got lots of news out this morning. The futures are gapping up huge right now. A lot of it is various different types of data. So basically the Dow Jones futures right now are up 106, and the opening bell starts in 30 minutes. S&P's up 1250 right now on that opening gap. We've got the Nasdaq futures at 2004, up 22.5. We had gold breaking all-time highs this morning above that big psychological threshold of $1,300 an ounce. Think about that. Oh, let's not forget that the FTSE, the CAC, and the DAC have all turned around late day. When they were negative earlier in the session, they've turned around and they've gone into it. Durable goods were stronger, so they say. Who knows? The thing about volatility is that volatility returns to a market with examining out of today, out of the 3 days, we have a 2-to-1 left elbow gap down to a right elbow. So that's still that side of the trend, and we'll be talking more about that off the tape. So basically what we're going to be looking at is sell bars hitting on the open, and once they do, if that's the case, and we break half of the bar and you put on your trades, you come down, price action is made, you pop that baby right to the long side when you hit right up above half of that SMF price action bar. And that's the way that will be, and then we'll see how the tape smooths out in your platform, and you know just how strong those pullbacks are. Well, if they're above 7.5 in your platform, then you know that those things are strong. And that's where you would pop those buys again, and bam, you'd sell right into resistance. Remember, some of the actual price action movements have been anywhere from 9 to 15-minute breakouts. Now, what we'll be calibrating today is where that late day action trade comes into play. And that means that when we get down to that last hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, and we start approaching that last hour of the trade, is we're going to see if prices are starting to weaken right then and there. Price action is slipping below half bars. It's later in the session, so we're going to put we'll put 3 different timestamps on the market that make significant moves once the market's open. And basically patterns, buy action patterns, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. They knife hook right up and up at the top. When they start to deteriorate, you start taking profits. Okay, it breaks below the previous half bar and becomes resistance, weaknesses in price action once again. So there's lots of headline news that we'll go over off of the tape with MMTs. Once again, our international traders, you're very important to us, and you deserve to be on SMF Street, because you do. And we have this type of training every morning before the markets open up. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen to have an SMF MMT account. So basically we're going to be watching some of the gaps, like on Apple right now. We've got nice gaps on Google. We've got gaps on Amazon. We've got gaps on Netflix with some more news out. There's a nice $5 gap. We've got these kinds of volatility trades working. You can take a look right here. Here are some of the gaps. That spider's gapping up pretty big. It was at 112.50 right here. Gap in pre-market now at 113.76 by 78. And Netflix is gapping up huge from that close. Apple's got a nice gap. We've got other ones that are gapping up. Here, let's take a look at that Google gap. That Google gap, look at that, close down there. Now, one thing about strong trends and in volatility, you always have that upside trade for these gap sequences. So basically watching the spiders and watching how some of the leaders are faring. Here's that Amazon gap right there. These are right elbow gaps up in price action. If you start to see half of that bar slid, they slide the bid, and you remain below it at resistance, you would be adding to the short. And breaking back below that half bar is crucial in price action, because that means that there's weakness during that time frame for you to ring the SMF MMT cash register on the trade. So let's rumble. Let's watch the price action. Let's monitor the fade backs, the pullbacks, and once again, let's go ahead and move these out of the way. Let's get them out of the way. Here is the spider chart. Here's the weekly chart. We're going to gap up on this spider chart. So we're going to take a look very quickly. I'm just going to throw in a trend line here for some of the MMTs. And basically, this is one right here. And this would be one on the upper end of that market right there. So basically, once we do gap, hey, they've got to close above 115 on the SPYs. And you're at 72 by 73 pennies there, 113.72 by 73 pennies there. So you can take a look at the distance, the dollar distance that you are from home plate here to that 115 price resistance, or somewhere right around in there. We'll talk about it off the tape. Once again, pre-market update. Lots of mixed things going on in the economic picture that we'll talk about later after the opening bell. We'll talk about the fact that we have RTP in that area. Rio Tinto is strong. So the thing about it is, looking for RTP trade today, MMTs. So pre-market futures, price action, spiders on the other hand, bam, 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 bam. There's your gap here. You closed at 48.67, and that's your Power Shares Trust there, the QQQs. And everyone knows what this is related to. So that's the momentum as far as the spider and those Qs there. So basically, let's get back to business and have a good trading day.